so glad we have no technical difficulties.
From the top?
Yeah.
Right. You're listening to Moonhawk Studios Presents.
By from the top, I meant with the countdown.
My computer froze up. That's why the music was late.
Are we good now?
Yes.
I think I need to slip into a coma for How about we just skip the goddamn theme song this week, and we'll move on to it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Moonhawk Studios Presents. I'm your host, Mac Paladin. With me in the studio is my good friend, Adam.
I'm like, it's a good thing that we're not in an actual studio right now. Or
I'd be dead.
Yeah, it's like our musical director probably would be having things thrown at him right now.
Or hands around my throat.
Yeah, pick your poison. Like, and it would probably be actual poison.
We do have Elemental Ogre here.
Honestly, I blame the computer at this point.
Galax is in the hizzy.
I am.
Petty fan.
I'm apparently a dead man walking.
And of course we have Twilight Winter.
Maybe I should just fumble Pennyfin to death and take his powers from him.
Oh, dear God. We have a great show for you tonight, I hope. In the meantime, let's get to the news. Adam?
Oh, geez, news. Well, first of all, it's getting nice outside. You know, finally feeling like autumn. Outside of that, let's see. No, we haven't announced it here, but yeah, Fragments of Silicon has gotten its official Twitch affiliates invite thing, and you know, we're still like figuring out the details and such, because you know this is our biggest step yet towards actual monetization.
Mm-hmm.
Hooray!
Yeah.
And for us, there are other things we need to weigh other than just hit the button and get extra money.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I see the get started button right here, but you know, that requires sussing out of certain details that will probably be happening another night, given that Mac here is pretty much a zombie at this point. You know,
an angry zombie because of technical difficulties, but yes, a zombie nonetheless.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's not a rush to get into this. It's just, you know, some of our goals are coming to fruition, and now we're proceeding on to the next step. Like, let's see, in other news, I watched a community immolate itself and rebuild itself over the course of half a week.
Wow.
Well, that's what happens when you hit a reset button.
Like,
is that like the easy button?
No, a reset button is a good word for it. Like,
No, that's when you hit the reset, the screen's still screwed up, then you have to take it out and go, God damn it. Get the sexual harassment out of here. And then put it back in and hit the power.
Yeah, it's like, that's a whole situation which I'm like, exploded. There's actually a lot more to it than just the sexual harassment stuff. It's been brewing for months. Like, I saw some of it. Maybe we'll talk about it next week on Fragments, because it is video gaming related. And dust is settling, but you know, until then, yeah, let's just say things moved fast. Like, really
that escalated quickly.
More like de-escalated, actually.
No, it escalated pretty fucking quickly.
Fair enough.
Well, this is what happens when you put things under a pressure cooker. They tend to explode. Like, the community was actually kind of pissed off before the incident happened. This is the spark, powder keg, boom effect. It was it just wasn't him being being a sexual harasser. It was like a couple of the mods being pedophiles.
Boy.
There's a lot of heavy shit here.
Wait. We're being vague about this, but we're talking about Loud House, aren't we?
No. I'm talking about the NeoGaf. Yeah, my community for over a decade fucking exploded because its founder sexually harassed some women. Yeah, it's like, guess what?
And it's worth noting that this is a community that had visually a very anti-harassment and pro-social justice and stuff agenda generally.
I don't know. If you guys knew Anatole back in the day, you would think anything but that. That was something from Torch the Bridge, but that's another cluster.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a lifetime ago. Like,
but
although
he was like cross-platform. It's like dirtbags like that were in every community.
Yeah, but I'm talking about this is a long fucking story, and I don't really want to get into it because we're pressed for time.
I just outed myself as an old man too, so there you go. Enjoy.
Like anyone else would get that. I'm like, anyway, more on this next week on my show. Like, Ogre, why don't you go?
There we go.
Well, let's see. Recordings are a little okay to frustrating. We've been having some recording issues that kind of stem from a mix of Naka's computer being older and Doom being a very intensive game. So...
yeah, newer games plus older computers.
We're going to record today to make up for a recording that had to be scrapped, but Naka had some other previous engagements to take care of, so gonna do that again. We're gonna do that on Friday, which I hopefully suggest that we just record further ahead anyway, just to feel like we have some semblance of progress there. I beat Superstar Saga over the last week.
The remake.
Yeah, the remake. It's a fine remake, that's for certain. Like I said before, if you haven't gotten it, I suggest you get it. I haven't done Bowser's Minions because I'm not really interested in it that much. It's more of a side story thing. Supposed to fill in the gaps of the story, but really that interested in it. And major news is that I got it is a
Ogre, your sound is
You're fading, Ogre.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, I got a new car.
Ooh.
It's a Nissan Altima 2014. It's
man.
used. So, but it only had like 2,400 miles on it. Less than that, so it's
Wow.
as close to new as you could almost get.
2,400 or 24,000?
2,400. Yeah, my
That's
mom
that's like dealer demo car mileage.
probably something like that. My mom had to take hers into the dealership to get something checked out for it, which is a funny story in of itself. But they saw it there, and they figured, well, turn in that car, we can use this as the second car, and there we go. Got that, turned the old car in, which was kind of heartbreaking because I had it for almost 10 years, so. But, yeah, I got this new car. It's already endeared itself to me because as I was driving to Naka's, This is the second time I'd driven it. As I was driving to Naka's to record, it was raining, because it's been chilly and rainy here lately. So I had the windshield wipers on, and the right windshield wiper came loose and flew off into the road.
So it has character, you're saying?
It has character, apparently, so. But the funny story for the dealership is that my mom had to take in her car, which is a newer model of the same car, so because there was a squeaking sound in the right rear tire, and it sounded like it was something with the suspension, because every time you hit a bump, you would hear a squeak. Turns out that apparently a squirrel had gotten up in there and stored a walnut in there.
Wow.
Yep, just right underneath there. The mechanic pulled it out, and that was the only thing that was wrong with it. It was just a squirrel had snuck up in there while the car was parked out in the driveway, and nobody was paying attention, and just snuck a walnut in there.
I guess that's better than having serious technical problems.
Yeah, I would have preferred if it hadn't been it had to take it to a mechanic to find that out, but apparently the squirrel had that nut very secured up there. I honestly thought when my dad said it was a nut, I thought he meant like a bolt nut or something like that.
Yeah, you'd think that would be more likely.
But nope, it was an actual walnut from the walnut tree we have in our backyard, so.
Wow.
Yep. And that's been my week, so.
All right. Petty Fan, what do you got?
Well, I had some interesting stuff happen last week. I saved my house from burning down.
Oh boy.
We had this old fan that we've been using for about 20 years, and it decided it wanted to catch fire because 20-year-old fans tend to do that. So I was sitting here just, watching YouTube, and then I heard a pop and thought the cats knocked something over. A few minutes later, I smelled smoke. I was like, fuck! Grabbed the fire extinguisher and put it out. So that was fun right before we had to record a multiplayer session. As far as this week goes, I haven't been doing too much, except I had to make a whole bunch of calls to keep my insurance because apparently Medicaid didn't get all the paperwork and they didn't know where some of it went, even though I delivered it to the office. So a whole bunch of calls to figure out where the paperwork went, and then there's new stuff they needed that I needed to take care of, and it was just, I never want to call another human being again after this week.
Well then.
Aside from that, not a whole lot's been going on. It's just been cold.
Okay. Alex?
Not a whole ton going on around here. It's been pouring most of today, and it was supposed to yesterday, but I guess it got a little slow, so it probably will still be tomorrow. I've been trying to find time to play Fire Emblem Warriors since I picked that up. It's this and Hyrule Warriors are the only Musou Warrior games that I've played, so I'm having fun kind of comparing them and seeing how they integrate parts of their base franchises into the games, which is interesting. But I haven't had as much time to play it as I would have liked. No major catastrophes, unlike some other people, so or either occurring or averted. So I guess that's good.
Right.
But I don't have a whole ton to talk about, I guess.
All right. Twilight?
Well, it's been getting colder here recently. I had to wear a jacket today for the first time since last fall or last winter. So there's something else. Well, We had a water leak just a few days ago in our plumbing, and we've had to dig up the yard out back because our plumbing is that goes to the city water is buried underground. And we thought we had it fixed yesterday, but then it turns out today that we have another leak.
You shouldn't have used the water-soluble sealant.
Yeah. Well, so besides that, I've been playing one of the games that we've had for review this week on Fragments, and that's about it.
Okay. Well, I guess that means it's my turn. Of course, we were off last week because we didn't have a guest. I've really I hate to say this on the air, but I've really gotten an aversion to having a show without a guest because we tend to get ourselves into trouble.
Us?
And that's not
trouble
necessarily bad.
never.
That's not necessarily bad for ratings, but at the I mean, we haven't gone full PewDiePie or anything dumb like that. But
I mean, if you really want.
no, you can just sit right back down there, sir.
Okay.
Just have a seat, pop a cold one, be chill. Big news. Although the Starship Moonhawk webcomic isn't really moving right now, Keith and I have already made plans to repilot the animated series.
Repilot?
Yes. You remember how we released that episode of the motion comic based on the Mercadian Affair, my current running comic on the site?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That was moderately successful, but wasn't as successful as I would have hoped.
Well, motion comics are a little bit of a unusual product.
It is. I mean, we had some full animations in it. It was actually pretty damn impressive for what it was.
For a motion, it was way more animated than most motion comics are.
Yeah, and then I saw one done by one of the premier artists who used this software package called Krita, and I felt shame, deep shame. I'm actually pretty proud of what we accomplished, and it is a pretty good template for episode structure for the future series. And we got a lot of practice using some of the tools that we will need to actually make a fully animated episode. But Keith and I got talking, and I said, we really need to take another shot at this. And I said, I know we killed ourselves working on this one. He's like, yeah, no, actually, I agree. And I was like, oh, okay. So even though no money is coming in right now, we are working on building a new teaser based on my first book, The Death of Perseus. And that will be the pilot for the new series, which what I'm jokingly referring to it as is Starship Moonhawk: The Maiden Voyage. And so what it will do is it will chronicle the years in between the novels. So each successive novel in the series can take place anywhere from weeks to months to years after the previous one. And I can always go back and tell stories that occur in between other novels if they become relevant. But I do generally like to tell a pretty contiguous storyline. As you all know, I generally despise prequels. We'll talk about Discovery on another episode. But there are exceptions to every rule. One is I'd like to make an actual motion picture out of The Fire and the Forge still. And I would love to get Mark Hamill and Malcolm McDowell to co-star in that. And that may not be impossible, given some things that I've been led to understand. And we'll leave it at that. But what is going to happen is we are going to make the Death of Perseus. We started 2.5 years ago. We did a Indiegogo campaign and got about a third of the way to the budget towards making a audiobook. And I'm going to be frank with everybody right now, that audiobook isn't happening. So if you've contributed to that, know that you will be getting something infinitely better for your contribution, because I'm going to roll that Indiegogo into our new Kickstarter, which will be to try to raise approximately $30,000 so that my small team of animators can put forward a halfway decent anime-themed episode, Archer style.
That's ambitious.
Yeah. Well, it turns out I know at least 3 different people, 5 if you count this other software package, but I know at least 3 different people who are well versed in Toon Boom animation and Toon Boom Harmony, which is the animation package that they use to create the show Archer. They're familiar with the techniques. I have a asset designer. It turns out that our artist on my, shall we say, naughty comics, Oshigan, has actually done static assets. You know, the 8 face turns, the different hands and body parts. He did that already 4 years ago for a hentai game.
Huh.
So he actually knows how to make the different articulation points. I asked him, I said, well, hey, can you, and he's like, oh, I did it forever ago, but I know exactly what you want. And I was like, well, dang. So we have an asset designer. We have three animators who know how to use Toon Boom Harmony. We have 2 additional animators who are also versed in Anime Studio, which is now called Moho. One of which worked on the motion comic. That was Nathan Bonner. He will most likely be coming back. So we basically have a full mini animation studio. Of course, Keith is our After Effects and Premiere wizard. So he is our editing god. Also exceptional with the crafting and repurposing of musical sounds. Is a professional Foley artist. Did all of the sound engineering and editing for the Mercadian Affair. Which,
Man, Foley art is one of those things that I always thought would be really neat to do.
yeah. I mean, we were talking about the amazing things you can do with just a galvanized garbage can. And all the different sounds that you can create, from, you know, waves lapping on the seashore to, you know, a full-on thunderstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Little things like that. So we actually have a pretty impressive team. Also, I don't know if you guys heard some of these people that were talking in this episode, but almost everyone who is listed in the main credits is coming back to make this episode. And additionally, I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag here. And I'm going to wrap this up quick because we're running out of time. But I don't think I'm letting the cat out of the bag here, but we've already made inroads to get Marina Sirtis to voice Vice Admiral Elena Taylor in the teaser.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So we've already approached her. It's all a matter of getting the minimum fee together for the 90 seconds of dialogue that she's going to have in this episode, and hammer out the actual paperwork with her agent. That's it. I mean, pretty much all the groundwork has been laid. The interest has been expressed. She's seen the script, and she said she liked it. She liked the character. A character that will be recurring throughout season 1 if we get past this pilot.
Cool.
So there's that. You know, other than that, I've just been working on busting my ass trying to get commissions to try to make sure I'm not homeless come November 1st. My expenses have finally exceeded my ability to pay. So, and my search for a second job has not exactly been extremely fruitful because nobody seems to want to hire anybody to work from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. unless they want to work in a warehouse, which there aren't a ton of warehouse jobs in Tucson. So
Insert comment about Arizona.
Yeah, that's my struggle right now. I'm sure there is somebody. I just don't know who to ask yet. I'm still looking. In the meantime, I gotta hawk a bunch of goods so that way I can pay the bills and then try to build my career as a commissionable artist. I've had some interest, but no takers as well. I have one taker, but I hate to say it, but that was not exact. That was kind of like, that's a gimme putt. It was somebody who was.
Is it
somebody who was already?
Is it Mike?
No. Mike is still contributing to the Patreon, but this is somebody who has been a very avid supporter of everything I've been doing of late. To assist with that endeavor, I was rummaging through the recycling at work, and I found a Fujitsu Stylistic, which is a full-on tablet PC. Like, it is an actual tablet. Does not come with a keyboard. Has all of the buttons around the edge. I replaced the hard drive with a 32 gig SATA with a 32 gig solid state drive. It has 3 gigs of RAM and it's running 32-bit Linux Mint. I got all the art programs that Linux supports, including Krita. I've got Krita, the GIMP. There's a couple other things on there that are. There's an Illustrator clone called Carbon, which is really amazing. So I've been working with that because that's something I'm going to be using to go on the convention circuit. So that's the news. That's the catch-up right there. We're going to run the episode a little long tonight, so that way we can give some proper due to our guest. And I apologize, JP, for making you wait, but without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest for this evening, JP of Egotastic Funtime, featuring the Orville.
Hey, gang. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on here. I've been watching your shows about the Orville for a little while now, especially since I've been trying to find as many positive takes as I can on this show that has received a lot of undue hostility.
Oh, yeah. I think CBS is paying a lot of people to say bad things about not only me, but, the Orville. No, I got, with talking to Orville, the fans have been amazing. I get 99% positive comments, but there's always, that one zinger that comes in a few times a day.
Well, it's like I was saying in the Orville fan group. Somebody asked the question. They said, "Why does it seem like Seth MacFarlane gets so much hatred?" And I said, "You have to understand who this guy is. At age 27, he had a show that initially got canceled, but ultimately was resurrected to become one of the most successful animated series on television."
Absolutely, and I've watched every single episode since day one.
Yep. And as a result of achieving success and fame so early, it's only natural that there would be haters and detractors who would want to drag him through the mud and throw shade on him.
He's got his questionable elements, make no mistake, but...
Of course. But generally speaking, it's like...
Usually when he gets political, he's kind of insufferable.
Well, to a more or less degree, aren't we all?
I was just going to say that. We're all insufferable when it comes to getting political. Except for me, all my opinions are amazing.
There you go. And we should give you all your money, all our money.
Oh, yeah. Feel free to do that anytime you want.
All right. So tell me a little bit about how you got started with Egotastic Funtime.
Oh, gosh. Well, Egotastic Funtime started about 2 years ago. Actually, I had a couple years ago, I decided, hey, I'm late to the game, but I'm going to try to start this YouTube channel and make videos because I'm super tired of not being creative. When I was younger, I used to be creative all the time. And, after years of, just, taking in entertainment, I'm like, I want to try to make entertainment. So I started a previous channel called Grown Ass Man. which was horrible, but it pretty much got me started. It had me, I was able to figure out my format through that. And then I said, okay, time to get rid of this channel and start anew. And I said, hey, I want to do a channel. I want it to be, for some reason, I had this K-pop image in my head. I want it to be crazy. I want it to be funny. I want it to be fantastic. I want it to be kind of egotistic in a funny way, and I want it to be a fun time. So there you go. I had Egotastic Funtime, and I also figured, hey, no one else is going to have that name because it's a made-up word. And so I started it.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I started it, and just like anybody else, it's you put out video after video after video after video, and nothing's happened. Just a little bit, a few views here and there, mostly accidental views. People accidentally clicked on your video. But I got a small fan base at first, about 15 people. And then another year later, it was up to 10 people. And then, which is not how it's supposed to work. And then I've been putting out videos steadily for 2 years, 2-3 times a week. I used to do 5 videos a week. Don't watch any of those videos, by the way. And last month when the Orville finally hit, I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch the Orville. Oh hell, I love the show. This is great. It's got a lot of promise. And I said, hey, I'll do an episode of my show about the Orville, because with Egotastic Funtime, every episode was a different topic. I'd always pick some different thing, whether it be a TV show, a movie, part of society that pisses me off or makes me happy. I do rants, this and that. So every episode was always a different topic. So I did the Orville episode last month, and it actually took off. People were loving it. And so I said, oh, well, hell, there's more, things to talk about with the Orville. I hear a rumor that Patrick Stewart might be on this show. I'll go, hell, I'll do a episode about that next. And so I did another episode of Talking the Orville, and that took off. It's even bigger than the first video. And of course, I got a little bit lucky with that. Those 2 videos are pretty big for my channel. But I said, hey, you know what? This is working for me. I'm finally getting some traction, and people are saying nice things. I'm going to only make Orville videos. That's what big YouTubers mean when they say find your niche, I guess. Is just find one thing and talk about that one thing, which is something I always tried to avoid. But apparently I shouldn't avoid it, because I can't stop thinking of new topics to talk about the Orville.
I guess it helps when you have a channel that's just trying to stand out. If people, when they go to your channel, they know what they're gonna get.
Yeah, and that was probably a big problem. Is this whole time, no one ever knew what they were gonna get with me. I didn't even know what I was gonna give them, because I was always, sitting, every day at work going, oh God, what am I gonna do in an episode about? Amazon's gonna open up grocery stores. Okay, I'll talk about that, or just have a weird idea in my brain, and I'll try to present it on screen.
Something Shamrock Shake.
Yeah, I did a Shamrock Shake video. It's actually one of my favorite videos.
There you go. Yeah, we were.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. You go ahead. It is your show. I give you the talking stick.
Well, you much appreciated. No, I was actually considering doing something YouTube specific myself. This show didn't originate on YouTube. It's something we've migrated here out of necessity. TalkShoe is an abysmal service that I don't recommend to anybody or their cat. And I was going to do something YouTube specific as I try to draw for my channel. So, it's heartening to hear that, if you find something you love, you can make it even in this day and age on YouTube.
Yeah, and that's, well, it will take a long time. I've had many a bout of depression that's been directly given to me by YouTube, just because I spend 9 hours filming and creating a video, and then nobody watched it, and then I'd make a quick video that takes me an hour, and more people would watch it. I'm like, well, what's going on here? So it's all about, and this is something I've heard a lot of how-to YouTubers talk about, is don't expect a big reception, but just keep at it, keep going, keep doing what you're doing. It's the people that stick with it no matter what, that usually find an audience.
Indeed. All right, so you covered quite a few topics there. Let me give the floor to my crew here for just a moment here and see if they have any direct questions for you personally.
Okay.
Galix, Petty Fan, you guys got anything?
I'm good.
I guess when you were doing it, you probably mostly thought about YouTube because it was the biggest one. Did you ever think about any of the other sites that people do videos on?
At first, no. First, it was just YouTube, and I was like, and then after about a year, I'm like, fuck this YouTube. This is a racket, and so, I've put videos out everywhere. I have stuff on Funny or Die. I have stuff on Amazon Prime. I have stuff on, VidMe. VidMe actually, I mean, apparently you can make money on it. I don't know how because apparently 10,000 views is like in a PewDiePie level for them. But VidMe is absolutely the easiest process of uploading videos I've ever seen. You just take your URL for your like a YouTube video and you just paste it in there and they do the rest for you.
Yeah, I think I've heard chiefly that the thing that I've heard the most about VidMe is that they don't have the content policing that YouTube does.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. That's probably true.
But
I think it's a very small team.
Yeah, but as an intentional thing, they don't have all of the systems in place where your video gets automatically taken down if it sounds too much like you're playing something from Black Sabbath or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think I read something on their website about how they intentionally do that just to be, allow creators to be free to create.
Mm-hmm. And I have a friend who uses it, and I have heard also that it's very easy. So I think that might be something that is a popular alternative to YouTube.
Yeah, and I would think that because I've had a few people mention VidMe, even though I'm already on it, but people that don't know I'm on it, they say, "Have you tried VidMe?" So I would assume, just like YouTube, start off small, that they'll grow, and they might very well be the next YouTube.
Well, there seems to be a lot of anti-YouTube sentiment amongst the millennials, I guess we'll say. There's a rebel against the man, as they say.
Yeah, well, YouTube is becoming more and more like the man every day. I mean, the people are getting automatically flagged. And from what I can tell, I mean, big YouTubers too are getting automatically flagged right away when they post a video. And it seems to be to me that a video usually gets their most views right at that first day. So I think if they automatically flag things when they're going to get the most views, they don't have to pay as much money for monetization. Usually the next day.
I was going to say
usually. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say one of the friends of our channel, Jesse Cox, he's been having problems with his South Park Fractured But Whole videos. Because apparently some YouTube account is claiming them, not Viacom or Comedy Central.
Wow, an actual YouTube account.
That shouldn't be possible.
It shouldn't be, but somebody's doing it, and Jesse's been mighty pissed.
Yeah, because there's people, but that's a copyright flag, which is actually different. Because I've gotten a few of those, and then I can actually see, when they actually tell you what part of your video is flat, it has the violation, and you can, re-edit it and, get it figured out, and you can actually see who, just like he did, you can see who made the claim. But the other flags that we're getting now is it's automatic. As soon as you upload your video, it's automatically flagged. It seems like when I post something on a Monday is when they flag me, and there's nothing in the video that deserves to be flagged, and it happens instantly. No one's had time to watch it and make a claim on it. So they got different levels of flagging things now, and of course they
have the same data signature as such and such a practice that is unwholesome.
Yeah, it's the unwholesome thing is what they're claiming. I mean, you can just put two words together that aren't bad at all, like say just like the South Park, the fractured butthole. It's butthole.
I mean, that is an intentional joke, but
yeah, but I mean, those two words separately don't mean anything. But the computers the YouTube robots that scan everything, they're like, oh, that's bad. Or, you might say, I was playing a video game and I eviscerated my opponent. And that word eviscerate, eviscerate will get flagged, and
Yeah.
that'll make the video
Or
non.
it's flagged as hate speech or violence.
Yeah, it's great. And then the next day, even without appealing it, the flag will be gone. But of course, your views already came in, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
people...
it seems like.
That's why I try to
Go ahead,
forget
Matt.
about all this stuff by watching the Orville.
So we've had a week off. We've had a week off from the show, which I personally feel is a mistake on their part for breaking up the season like that and killing the momentum. I think they should have just done all 13 episodes in a sequence and let the chips fall where they may as to whether or not they're going to renew it for a second season.
Yeah, well, especially with it just being 13 episodes, I don't see why. But even, most shows, the big shows, Walking Dead and stuff like that, they're, 13, 15 episode seasons, and they'll skip a week once in a while. I don't know if there's some sort of ultimate plan that, because I guess they know the numbers better than we do. Maybe it allows people to catch up. I'm not sure.
Could be. I mean, I watch it on Fox.com. So it's like I'm not part of the normal demographic, but I think I'm in the +7 per category.
Yeah, +7 actually starting to count now. They start counting it, and in October now. Yeah, that's 7 days. That's the air date plus 7 days of DVR and things like that. They just started counting that, and the ratings for the Orville in October have doubled.
Yeah, it's something like 2.1 million viewers, which is actually edging out shows like Arrow and Gotham, which are considered to be wildly successful shows, especially for the secondary and tertiary networks. To have anything over 1.2 million viewers and then capturing that key demographic is just like, whoa.
Yeah, and also it's I think with the Orville, word of mouth is actually doing really well because, as the biggest fans of the Orville are 90s Star Trek fans, and so they're starting to tell their friends, and other people are starting to discover. Because I remember when I first did my first Orville video, which was why Orville is the new Star Trek. I was getting a lot of hate messages at first. I was like, there are people going, "Oh, the Orville sucks," this and that, for the first day or two, and then as the days went on, all that started going away, and I got more and more people, signing on and saying, "Oh, the Orville's the best show," and now it's been 99% that for the whole month.
I personally think this is my fan theory about Fox's advertising for the show being misleading on purpose as a troll. I think that I don't think that Fox misunderstood the show at all, because the executives there had seen all 13 episodes of it before air date. So, because they all existed already, they were done filming by August.
Yeah.
So there's no way that they didn't know what this show was all about.
I think they might have thought that airing it as, hey, what Seth MacFarlane does might sell better.
Yeah, that's exactly it. See, what it is even though they know what the show is, they don't respect, and this is for all TV producers and studios, they don't respect the audience enough to have them say, hey, this is what this is. They're basically, giving them an Adam Sandler trailer for everything, because they think that's what the audience is gonna, eat popcorn to.
I read a great article in the Orville fan group on Facebook, and one of the points that they made was that it's actually disrespectful to the show to say that it's a comedy or it's a drama or it's just one thing or the other. They said really Seth MacFarlane put together a new thing where it's got lighthearted comedy in it, but it's a pretty serious drama too. And
very serious.
And that's the whole makes you think kind of thing.
Yeah, with the Krill episode, even though it had tons of humor in it, and it had one of the darkest stories for primetime television, sci-fi show you think of. It was basically paralleling, what's going on with Islam, and people's feelings towards, that, and of course, they didn't come out and say that, but they're saying, hey, this is a powerful
Right.
group of religious fanatics. And then at the end of the episode, when Captain Mercer went out of his way to save the children on the ship, even though he wasn't thinking, hey, you're killing all the parents of those children, the Krill woman that we made friends with, I'm making quotation marks as I say that, made friends with,
Right.
she said those children will be your enemy. They will be. So basically Captain Mercer changed nothing. He went out of his way to show mercy and save these kids, but it's going to change nothing. But they left us a little kernel of hope in that one Krill child who likes to question everything, wants to know more about humans. And that's that little kernels of, he might go and just start questioning things. He's not going to change anything. He's not going to change society, but he'll maybe start thinking differently. And then maybe that'll, become infectious as, a few thousand years progress, because that's how long it takes.
Yeah. Well, as I said in the group, I thought I was really fascinated by the episode because you get a chance through Seth MacFarlane's creation, working with Brandon Braga and a whole bunch of other Star Trek alumni on this show, and you're seeing for the first time what Star Trek would look like if they weren't shackled to the ghost and rattling chains of Gene Roddenberry.
Yeah, actually, it's there's no baggage with the Orville because there's they can do whatever they want. They can create the show that they want, and no one has to say, "Oh no, you're supposed to do it this way because of this episode from 30 years ago." No, they don't have to deal with that. And then also, I think the show is taking Gene Roddenberry's initial vision and then doing their own thing with it, which has been lost in Star Trek since Voyager. And
I just think it's interesting because you see this world building going on here where they're like, well, what if there wasn't a prime directive? Well, what if there isn't a Starfleet gospel? Where everybody just is always good all the time because we're goody two shoes and that's just the way it is.
This show takes place in a realistic dystopian, positive future. It's like you take Star Trek and you put regular people in it with, regular senses of humor, and they live life like regular people. It is a job. They're on a starship. They have really cool starship jobs, but they're looking forward to getting off at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it's like I just love Malloy's line where he's just like, we're not getting off by 5. There's no chance we're getting off by 5 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, and I have a theory about the show that I think Star Trek actually exists in the Orville universe as Star Trek, the TV show, the TV series and movies. And maybe as the future, as technology improved and society improved, they started modeling it more after Star Trek because Star Trek was such a big pop, culture icon all those years ago. So I don't see why they can't have a Star Trek ship in their holodeck if the show had existed.
That would be fantastic, and it would be so meta.
It'd be super meta, but also it'll be so never happening because CBS will be like, no way. We let you get away with the animated Next Generation and Family Guy, but we're not going to let you do actual sets.
You'd be surprised at what flashing a little cash will do, and Fox is not exactly a minor player.
Maybe Fox will just say, "Hey, we'll throw up some CBS All Access commercials on our channel for free."
This all presumes, of course, that they won't torpedo the show intentionally or unintentionally, as is their wont with everything science fiction on Fox.
Yeah, of course, Firefly being the biggest letdown of all time, but also Firefly, as great as the fans were and as ravenous for the show to continue as they were, I think the fans joined on way too late. I think there's probably a half season or even closer to the end of the season before the fans were like, "Oh my god, I love this show."
Well, that's kind of how cult classics work. What things become cult classics because they don't get to be regular classics in time.
Yeah, well, it was ahead of its time. And a lot of people are saying that they like the Orville because it brings back that comedy sci-fi, vibe that Firefly had. I get lots of Firefly comments, and I'm like, well, good. That's the right show for you.
I always said that Nathan Fillion really did get a chance to finish Firefly with the continual references to it and constant guest starring in Castle, but you know.
Oh yeah, and Serenity was such a great, nice gift from Joss Whedon to the fans because he was able to come up with a story that the fans are like, okay, this is great. It's kind of like closure, but also people that never heard of Firefly can say, hey, this is the start of a new movie. I don't know how he was able to balance that, but that was nice. But I'm hoping Nathan Fillion, because Nathan Fillion will do any acting job people ask him to do. I'm hoping he does a guest starring role. I think he would be perfect to do some sort of comedy scene in the Orville.
I've already picked him out to be Admiral Gilead Cobalt in a live-action version of Starship Moonhawk. That's my series, in case the title of the show wasn't evident.
Well, yeah, I that's a good name, Moonhawk.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Darkhawk comic.
Yep. Oh, there's a lengthy story behind it. The short version is it's the name of a freedom fighter that may or may not have actually existed 500 years ago before the formation of the Star Alliance.
Oh, wow.
And the 3 ships in the Moonhawk class are named after various historical freedom fighters.
Wow, that sounds complicated. I'm gonna need one sheet on that.
Oh, and then once you get to the rock-like aliens that I've got that are the adversaries of the Star Alliance, called the Chrysalis. Or some people call them the Chrysalis. I can't get mad at them for that because they're not wrong.
Speaking of rock creatures, don't you feel kind of like Bortus might have evolved from some sort of rock creature? Because, I was looking at the Klingons versus Bortus because they are very similar, but Bortus just seems like, I don't know, kind of like the Jim Hadar from Voyager. They seem like they're kind of like rocky skin.
I like him a lot, and his actor Peter Macon is actually quite good. And at first I got this Worf-like vibe off of him, and of course we all chuckled at the Mocklins only urinate once per year, gag in the teaser. But he's really started to evolve into a fairly interesting character. I like how Malloy and Lamar always manipulate him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
with dumb TV shows and stuff, but
oh yeah, with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, they were able to teach him a lesson about gender equality.
Isn't that great? And a lot of people got critical about that because they're like, "Oh fuck, it's a Brandon Braga episode." He's gonna get heavy-handed with some bullshit he doesn't understand.
Well, what's so funny is in the comments. No, go ahead. You finish your thought.
No, the only thought I was going to say was because that was the critical hit always levied against Braga when he wrote for Star Trek. So, any one word episode you could usually attribute to or blame on him.
Yeah, it's gonna be like some heavy-handedness, but really, it's like the original series. He is black on the right side of his face. I'm black on the left side of my face. That's heavy-handed.
Yes.
I mean, that's how Star Trek has always been, and because they have alien races playing out these scenarios that we see in our own our own lives, it's people are able to get the message without taking it, getting defensive about it because it's just aliens doing what aliens do. But then you learn something. But it was it's the comparison with Klingons and Mocklins is okay. Of course, Bortus is supposed to be the Worf style character, tough, stern, not necessarily angry, but not having any. He's not messing around. But they don't have that warrior race feel, which is kind of cool. It just seems like serious people, and even as far as serious people go, I think Bortus is probably more serious than the average Mocklin.
Yeah, like his boyfriend Clyden, his mate Clyden, is radically different, and I like that they had that on the show. And what's so great about it is that they throw down these gender issues. Now, of course, I was disappointed in the fact that they failed the Bletchdale test by the 4th episode, but Star Trek Discovery did as well, so fuck them. But it's like, stop having the female characters talk about their male prospects, and we'll be fine. But I really liked that they're taking chances with this show. Yeah, okay, it started out a little slow with that first episode, but
Yeah.
on second viewing, there's a lot of genius in that pilot.
Yeah, I've seen it twice, but of course, the second time I watched it was, just a day or two after the first viewing, so I need to go back. Well, also I'll be going back because I'm late in the game because October has been weird for me. I've been so busy with life stuff because I'm in the middle of a move, so I'm behind on all these episodes that I want to do. But as soon as November hits, I'm all talking to Orville all the time. I get home from it'll be every day I'll be working on it with no distractions. Because if I get even the smallest distractions, I can't work on my show because I'm like, oh god, I'm gonna have to do so much, stuff and this and that, and I get inside my head. But one thing I wanted to bring up about the Bortus discussion and that episode, which was about a girl, which I call the measure of a woman. It's,
Perfect.
It's I get a lot of comments on that episode from people saying, oh, this episode is, social justice warrior bullshit, and but then at the same time, people complain about Star Trek Discovery on my comment sections, saying, oh, I watched the Orville because Discovery is social justice warrior bullshit. And I'm like, well, which is it? They're either both social justice warrior bullshit or neither of them are social justice warrior bullshit, or it's just it's really weird that people are complaining about the same thing but not both at the same time.
I'm shocked more of these people are not complaining that Discovery is like fascist war porn,
Oh, people love that.
Yeah.
There are people that I haven't dived into Discovery yet just because there's so much TV nowadays, and I spend a lot of time not watching it because I'm working on my show and of course I'm watching the Orville. And then late at night when I'm done working on my show, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna watch something that's I don't have to think too hard about what's going on. So I just watch Parks and Rec every single night.
Yes.
Year after year after year, I've seen every episode probably 15 times just because I just watch them over and over and over again.
I will have the meat plate, please and thank you.
I know what I'm about, son.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so much Ron Swanson wisdom. You do realize that behind me in the room, in my work area, I have a giant replica of the Ron Swanson Pyramid of Greatness.
Oh, the Pyramid of Greatness. I keep meaning to print one of those up and put it on my wall because I want to see the fine print, see what they all say.
Oh, he actually read every single one of them in the episode. but I have it, and it just has so much great stuff. Handshakes, firm, 3 seconds.
There's only 2 approved haircuts, high and tight. Oh no, there's 3. Buzz cut, high and tight, and I don't know, some other one.
I'm not going to go to the post, but that would take too long.
I'll do a whole other episode about Parks and Recreation. But one thing about my show, and this has been for the whole time, even my old episodes, every episode I do, because, my on-screen persona is a little bit of a character. And every episode, even in different sections of an episode, I'm always channeling one of the characters from Parks and Recreation as the presenter of that part of the episode. So, I'll steal stuff from Ron Swanson. I'll steal stuff from Jean-Ralphio, Tommy, a lot of Andy, Chris Pratt. I do a lot of that.
I'm such a fan of the show. I'll mention this briefly. I make adult webcomics, and in one of them, in the beginning of the 3rd chapter, they're going to a gym, and there's John Ralphio and Tom standing behind the desk of 720 Fitness.
It's an adult comic, so does someone hit on John Ralphio? Because I'll tell you one thing about John Ralphio. He's open-minded as hell.
Yeah, that's like his...
God, I love this. I killed a thought with that laugh.
All right, back to the Orville. Back to the Orville. Oh, speaking of Parks and Rec and the Orville, The episode tomorrow, Majority Rule,
Yeah.
is directed by Tucker Gates, I believe his name is, and he directed a couple episodes of Parks and Recreation. So boom, I connected it together. Segue.
There you go. That's your 6 degrees of separation of Seth MacFarlane.
That's right.
I love that show a lot. I mean, my ex and I, that was probably one of the things that kept us together until the end there. And then once it was over, then we had no reason to be together anymore.
Well, you should look on my YouTube channel. I did an episode, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, called Amazon sold me bootleg T-shirts or something like that. Anyway, I bought 2 Parks and Recs T-shirts, which were supposed to be official T-shirts, and they're total bootlegs. I mean, horrible. They were printed on, some weird silky European sports cloth, and oh man, if you want to see a funny Parks and Rec story, you can watch that episode. It's back there somewhere.
Oh, I'll definitely check that out, because now that I know that you've done Parks and Rec stuff, I like you even more.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I there at one point I was gonna be like, hey, I want to do an entire show about Parks and Recreation, and but I just never got around to it because I'm like, oh god, there's too much to dive into. I'd have to start from the first episode. I was gonna review every single episode, and I'm like, oh god, that's too much. I have to quit my job in order to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a short show.
No.
7 seasons.
Yeah, but it's more like 6 because you can skip the first season.
Yeah, well, the first
even
6
if you don't,
seasons
it's
is only
super
6
short.
episodes. Well, here's the way I do it: is I always start from season 3. I'll go season 3 to season 6 because season 6 I think had the best series ending for the show that it possibly could have gone for. And then after I get to season 6, I'll go back and I'll start from season 1, and then I'll watch all the way to season 7. And then after I'm done with that, I'll go back and start from season 3 again, and go to 6, and then watch 7, and then I'll start from 3 again. It's just a crazy obsession.
It's one. Well, they were sure they were getting canceled after season 6, but I got to say that they did one of the greatest. See, Deep Space Nine was actually the producers were sure that the network that Paramount was going to cancel it after season 6, so they wrapped up most of the storylines except for the Dominion War, and they were thinking about leaving that on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Or as something that they could do if they ever got to another Star Trek series. They could deal with fallout or aftermath of that. And then all of a sudden, they got season 7. Deep Space Nine is an example of a series that should have ended in its 6th season and got that god-awful last season, whereas Parks and Rec effectively ended in season 6, had one of the best send-offs in television, and then still somehow managed to top themselves in that extra final season.
Yeah, well, they were able to push it forward 3 years in time, so they were able to kind of essentially restart a whole new story that's not connected. I was disappointed. I have a hard time with the first half of season 7 just because Ron and Leslie are at odds. But, there's still so much good content in that season that I forget about. I'm like, oh my God, that's so funny. Oh, that was season 7? Oh my God. And actually, if you go back and watch the first 2 seasons of Parks and Rec, there's a lot of stuff that happens in those 2 seasons that you forget were in the early on. Hopefully, we'll have that type. We'll be talking, about watching season after season after season of the Orville someday.
Yeah, I really hope so, because I mean CBS has already jumped ahead and said that season 2 of Discovery is a done deal, and we're still wondering how they're going to pay for it. But at the same time, Fox is being real coy about the Orville's fate. It's like, okay, you've basically put out half a season already. Don't you know by now if you're going to renew it? And they're like, no, we're waiting till the bitter end. Double middle finger.
Yeah, they're usually. We would know about around this time, so maybe after tomorrow's episode, perhaps they'll announce it. But yeah, we're getting close to the time where they should be announcing whether or not it's going to get renewed. Now, CBS renewing Star Trek Discovery, I don't even consider that news because I'm like, well, yeah, of course. It's not even a TV show, really. It's basically a Kickstarter for CBS All Access. That was the reason they decided to bring Star Trek back. Is, suits were in a room, execs were in a room saying, how are we going to get people, fans, how are we going to get a demographic that's a little bit more tech savvy than usual to sign up for CBS All Access? What will they like? Oh, you know what? They'll probably like Star Trek. Let's bring it back.
Well, I will say this again, having watched all 6 episodes
Mm-hmm.
of it so far, I'd have to say my opinion of it was turned around very quickly. And I think that more people should give it a chance. Because once again, as the fandoms have said, there's no real reason for there to be this imaginary competition between these two shows.
Yeah, there's no. I respond to people a lot because some people are like, "Oh, I like both shows." I'm like, "Yeah, that's great. You should. If you like both shows, like both shows." I love the Orville because it feels like the Star Trek that I grew up with. But Star Trek Discovery is Star Trek. It's Star Trek. It has the name Star Trek on it. So, give it a chance. It may not be the tone that I'm looking for, but I'm still going to give it a chance once all the episodes are out, and I'm going to get my free CBS All Access 1-week trial.
I think they've
And
done
I'm
a
going to
pretty
binge watch it.
I think they've done a pretty mature job of it for the most part. I mean, you're looking at the reason that most people don't recognize the face of the Federation in this show is because what they're seeing is their true nature, the whole idea of peaceful exploration and coexistence with other races throughout the universe is always the underlying gospel of Starfleet, as Adam likes to say. And actually a lot of people like to say that. But they're at odds with that because they're at war.
Yeah, when you're at war, like what was that episode where in TNG where all of a sudden the timeline changed and the Enterprise was a warship. Yesterday's Enterprise. That's what I was gonna say, but I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. But yeah, and they were at war.
The 3 warp nacelles.
No, that's the last episode. All good things. This is the one where the Enterprise C came back through a time portal, forward through a time portal, and fucked up the timeline.
Yeah, so the Enterprise was a warship. Everything was dark. Everything was, Star Trek Discovery, where it's dark outlook. They're gonna destroy enemy.
Yeah, they talk about troop movements and capacities and armaments and so on and so forth. And they're like, well, we've got 6,000 photon torpedoes aboard the Enterprise. It's like, where did you put them all? In the corridors?
Well, there's with Discovery, a lot of when I finally dive into Discovery, I'm going to give it a fair chance. The reasons I don't like Discovery has nothing to do with the show. It has to do with the
process,
the process, and the CBS side of things. But that's not the show's fault. So I'm eventually going to jump in. I'm going to watch the whole thing, and I'll probably end up loving it, even though I'm never going to # not my Klingons. Sorry, that's never going to.
Yeah, no, that part I still am at odds with.
Everyone is. There's not a single person that likes those Klingons.
Oh yeah, they changed the way they looked again.
Oh,
like, really bad.
And they redesigned all of the ships, not just the Federation starships, but the Klingon ships look nothing like their original series counterparts, which is a major continuity flaw. I don't give a flying fuck what faction of the Klingon Empire they think they're representing.
This is within a few decades, right, of the original series?
This is 10 years before the original series. We've seen what the Pike era looks like. Okay, yeah. We've seen what the Enterprise and all the Federation starships are supposed to look like in the era from 13 years before the original series to the original series. And they're all supposed to have those cylindrical nacelles with the glowy front ends, and everything looks all cloy and happy, and it's all cylinders and soft shapes that don't bother people. And the Klingon ships are supposed to be angular, and they've got a menacing long neck with a giant torpedo tube in the front saying, fuck you guys, we mean business, And the Klingon ships look nothing like that. They look like bizarrely decrepit birds.
Well, that's probably good though, because the Klingons don't look like Klingons, so why should the ships look like
Thing
Klingon
was,
ships?
they had
Turns out it's
representatives-
actually a completely different faction and race, and there's just someone got some wires crossed, and their
No,
name got
that's
translated as
fucking
Klingons.
bullshit because they had representatives of all 24 major houses at the Battle of the Binary Stars. Not one goddamn D7 looked like a D7 there.
I'm kidding, anyway.
Yeah, because I was gonna
Sorry.
say maybe it's kind of like how there's the Romulans and the Remans, and the Remans, they originally started in one place and they split off, and then all the Remans look like basically Nosferatus. I was like, maybe these Klingons just stemmed off a very long time ago.
The birds of prey look like something that a ninja would use to kill you with.
Wow.
And everything is, of course, all the space shots, all the optical shots. Everybody's like, "Oh, the special effects are just fucking amazing on this show," and I'm like, I can't see anything. There's so much visual noise in there. How can you suss out any of the details? Well, I looked at the production art, and that just helped me align my brain. It's like, no, I'm not getting macular degeneration to look at your space optical shots. Thanks.
Yeah, it should all
Also,
be
that's kind of cheating.
shown in the show.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a little angry and off track there, but that's the only thing that really bugs me. Everything else about the show, I love. I love the bizarre and almost psychotic mentor-mentee relationship between Captain Ahab Lorca, as I like to call him, and Michael, I'm a fucking traitor, Burnham. They seem like a match made in hell, and it's perfect.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it eventually.
They really thought this through. And again, I'm not going to give any plot-specific details about it for anybody who hasn't seen it. But I'm just like, you know what? I think it's oddly appropriate that Lucius Malfoy is the one who leads Michael Burnham back from the darkness. I mean, if you really want to get down to it.
That word right there, darkness. That's what I get a lot of people when they're talking about Discovery. They're always saying, oh, it's too dark for Star Trek. There's no hope. The Orville's got hope. That's what we're looking for right now. But what I always think about is Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise, where that show was definitely darker than your typical Star Trek. But the thing is the crew was always so hopeful. Like from day one, the crew was always, they're in that mindset of, we're going to have an adventure and it's going to be great. And they just, every episode just got pounded by space exploration.
Yeah, I would say by the 6th episode of Enterprise, the attitude aboard the NX-01 was a bit like, well, this was a grand adventure, but now what we're really going to be doing is kind of skulking around space, trying to avoid direct contact with anybody because it's bluster and bravado doesn't work.
Yeah, everybody's a dick. Everybody in space is a dick. So, so I don't even know why we're out here. We're going to look around, but hopefully no one sees us.
Right.
They're
like, well, we don't have shields and we don't have particle weapons, so go hide in that nebula.
Yeah, they did a lot of hiding in nebulas.
Yeah, or using the gravitational fields of planets and stuff to avoid detection. What a missed opportunity.
Speaking of like a nebula type scene, how about that crazy scene in Priya, episode 5 of the Orville, where all of a sudden they're in like an antimatter.
Dark
matter storm. And I was like, oh my god, that was crazy to me. I'm like, that's something I don't think I've ever seen visually shown.
Well, I mean, the concept of dark matter, I'm surprised that they included it so quickly in this show, considering the fact that, although they've accepted it now, up until recently, the concept of dark matter was pseudoscience nonsense. And then all of a sudden, like, we never saw this in any science fiction exploration show in the history of ever. And it's like, oh my God. I mean, it is literally like flying through an antimatter storm.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I'm wondering if, since Seth MacFarlane has a connection to, what's his name? Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah.
Through the show Cosmos. I wonder if he's if he just calls Neil up and says, hey, what weird science shit you got going on right now?
I wouldn't doubt it, because, I mean, if you go back to the inception of the original series, Gene Roddenberry spent a lot of time at the Rand Corporation speaking with their think tank about theoretical physics, before he started talking about warp drive. And like, he was originally said, yeah, we're just going to do the old standby of lasers. And they're like, no, call it something else. Like, actually, one of the guys at the think tank at Rand actually said, call them phasers, because that's not a thing, but at the same time, it is a thing that could be in the future. And he was like, tell me more.
You can use lasers if you want, but make sure they act like lasers. How do lasers work? Well, they don't make very good video.
Yeah, well, it's like the gigantic cannon that they transported down in the cage would be a more accurate representation of a tactical laser, because if you tried to use hand-based lasers, they would be completely ineffectual as tactical weapons. They just don't generate enough heat.
Well, in the future, they might.
If you put the right focusing crystal, it's like, hey guys, they are telling me that the engines are not gonna take it. Just FYI.
Well, it could be worse. They could be using lightsabers.
Oh God. Which they've now actually, somebody bothered to break down how you could generate a enclosed personal force field to create it. And I'm just like, you know what? Just die in a fire.
Yeah, we don't need
I did not
those.
need to know how the magic of lightsabers works.
Yeah, plus that's something I never want to be invented. We're not even good at swords yet.
It's like I swung it around and chopped off my own leg. It was great.
Yeah, that's not something you want to accidentally drop.
Well, if you let go of it, I mean, it just shuts off.
Yeah, but
unless they
that
throw it,
defective
in
one.
which case I guess there's some kind of locking mechanism for the switch. I don't know. I don't want to get into a Star Wars continuity.
Yeah, because everything we say will be just made up.
it'll be monitored and critiqued and dissected.
Yeah, that's true. And anytime you talk about Star Wars, I've learned this the hard way. At least 50% of people are going to tell you you suck, no matter what you're saying.
Yeah. Seth's got his ear to the ground on what actually made Star Trek work. And it's like it's really funny how you have to go back to the cheesiness of the original series and the early days of Next Generation before you really realize that no, actually very smart people worked on this, and that's why it worked.
Absolutely.
Star Trek was actually very, very smart for its time, and I think the Orville will bring some of that back.
Yeah, especially since Seth MacFarlane is basically a huge fanboy of Star Trek, and he has all these connections. He's able to bring back the people that used to create Star Trek, and then have them make the Orville, which is a pretty nifty trick.
Yeah, I mean, he even got to be a recurring guest star as Ensign Rivers in Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy has the street cred necessary to pull this off, and it's just unfortunately there's a lot of negativity in the critics circles that, I mean, you look at it and it's like the fan ratings of the show are in the 90% range. The critics are still hammering him in the 20s, and it's just like, really?
Yeah, and I've read some newer reviews by the critics English, and they're basically saying, I don't know why other people don't like this show. It's they say it's great. I don't know if some people are saying that CBS probably paid people to write badly about the Orville, but also with certain franchises, Star Wars, Star Trek, things like that, the longer something's been out, the more people, the more ammunition people have to hate it, even while loving it. They're like, I love it so much that I hate it, because whatever's coming out new is not as good as what I used to love.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm a true fan because of my hate site.
It's like the new DuckTales. It's like, yeah, well, we'll just see who's more Scottish McDuck. I've got a kilt. A kilt.
Speaking of DuckTales, I'd love to get David Tennant on the Orville, but I don't know what he would ever do.
Doesn't matter. You just have to show up.
Is South African.
You just have to show up and say, well, we'll just fix this with a sonic screwdriver, and everybody go, ooh.
Yeah, since the Orville is actually, it tastes like Star Trek, but it's actually an homage to all sci-fi, really. Right. So I wonder if they're ever going to allude to, make, little jokes like a Doctor Who style joke.
I'm pretty sure there was at least one reference to Amazon Women from the Moon.
Wow.
And there are at least one. I'm pretty sure. It's got everything. It's got Forbidden Planet. It's got Star Trek. It's got The Outer Limits. It's got
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone. All of it. It's all there, and I'm sure that as the season progresses, we'll get even more of it. I'm just glad that the show's decided to get bolder and edgier as they go deeper into the season.
Yeah, it is pretty dang edgy, and I'm actually interested to see what type of, because it seems like every episode has touches upon some sort of issue, even just lightly, even if it's not a modern day issue, but some sort of issue. I wonder what Majority Rule, which is the name of tomorrow's episode of the Orville, I wonder what that deals with. Why did they specifically choose that term? And I'm sure they're going to bring up something, but
I've seen the previews. I've seen the previews for it, and basically what happens is that this entire planet society is built like a reality TV show to where they met out justice by having people phone in with devices on the scene to determine people's fate.
In other words, the majority, it's about how, the majority includes a lot of dumb people, and sometimes, experts are more valuable than
so
just
much
asking
like
everybody.
The tyranny of the majority.
Much like street judges and Judge Dredd, basically the entire populace becomes judge, jury, and executioner for any infraction that they happen to bear witness to on the streets.
Majority Rule. Well, damn, I wish I consulted you before I made my latest episode, which I was gonna upload as soon as we're done here.
I just started looking for previews and piecing it together, and I found a puff piece that actually explained some of what was going on there from Fox itself, and they were talking about it, and I was like, oh, well, this is actually pretty fascinating, because remember, the critics have seen quite a few more episodes than we have.
Oh, okay, because basically, my whole episode that I'll be airing as soon as we're done here is it's all about, it's just a preview for tomorrow's episode, and I just talk about, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does this mean? Here's a joke, what's going on here? So I think it'll still work, because it'll be people, I just watched the one preview that they had on Orville's YouTube page, which is actually pretty bare, that page.
Yeah, terrible promotional websites is no new thing.
Yeah.
Well, this is the par for the course with Fox. We're getting towards that. We're getting towards that magical hour, as they say here. So I'm going to give the guys here a quick chance here. If anybody has any additional questions for JP.
Yeah, I feel like we've covered. I mean, there are a lot of things we didn't talk about, I guess, but there are also, I feel like the stuff we talked about we covered pretty well, and obviously we don't have a ton more time to talk about it more. You have a lot of interesting things to say about different things. I almost feel like it's a shame that you've mostly dedicated to the Orville, because I feel like you have a lot to say about other stuff. But
well, don't worry. I'm actually yesterday's episode, I asked the audience, what other things they want me to talk about, because once the Orville season is done, I'll do an episode here and there about the Orville as we wait for the second season to come, but I'll be doing all new topics once the Orville stops airing.
oh,
I think there will be a second season. I'm
pretty sure there will be too. I mean, it's just not definite.
The right magic numbers.
Yeah, I think it's. I think there's enough people loving it early on, and Seth MacFarlane has a track record, a big enough track record. Well, they'll give him at least a second season before they decide to cancel something.
Right. He's too in bed with the upper ups.
Yeah.
Take that comment as you will.
Well, I was worried at first, because I'm like, damn, I love this show, but God, it looks expensive to make, and that's always
he insisted they use a practical model instead of CGI for the Orville itself.
Yeah. Which is,
and that's a $500,000 prospect right there.
Yeah, he's smart, because also the models in the 90s Star Trek, well, and even original Star Trek, work just fine.
Well, and they do have an odd realism to them. They have a dimensionality to them if they light them correctly.
Yeah, it feels less like you're watching a cartoon.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I did watch pretty much all of Babylon 5, and I hated the CGI in that show because I knew it was made on an Amiga toaster machine. It's just upset. I'm like, this is a bad video game. Kill me now.
Yeah, well, that was a bad time for CGI because, of course, the '90s was the golden age for CGI. But when we got to later on, where they're using CGI too much, but they don't have, the correct tools to do it right,
I'd like to refer to Exhibit A, the elongated Enterprise E in Star Trek Insurrection.
Oh God.
It was always a little bit elongated, wasn't it?
The ship had different dimensions every time it turned.
Yeah, the design of the class is longer than it is wide, but
which is shocking because they had a practical model for Star Trek First Contact. And the Enterprise looked different in all three movies with the Enterprise E. The Enterprise E looked different in every film. It had the same basic design structure, but in Insurrection it got wider, and then in Nemesis it got longer and shorter, but somehow had more decks.
Yeah. Sorry, I like the Sovereign class design more than
if they ever kept it consistent. We never got to see the Sovereign class in Deep Space Nine, which was an offense against humanity.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever. It's like, well, okay, we've seen the Enterprise, but what about the USS Sovereign? That's a discussion for another time. JP, thanks for coming out and being with us tonight. Did you have any quick plugs you wanted to do for anything coming up or any appearances or anything like that?
I'll be at Night at the Apollo. No, just kidding. First off, I just want to say thanks a lot for having me on the shows. It's always fun to talk to people about the Orville. I don't get to do it enough. I'm always talking to myself or talking to the camera. And the only plug is just watch Talking to Orville on Egotastic Funtime channel on YouTube. And if you want to tune in tomorrow, every Thursday, while the Orville season 1 is airing, every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time, I'll be doing a live show, a pre-show for the new episode of the Orville. People come, they show up, we chat about the Orville, we play games, and as the Orville starts to air in different people's time zones, people leave, and we just give them a nice send-off. Hey, go watch the Orville, leave the show, come back when you're done, and we have a good old time. At least, people pretend like they're having a good time. So you can see that every Thursday on YouTube on Egotastic Funtime or Talking the Orville.
Fantastic.
I'm JP, and I approve this message.
And give him all the money. Sorry, that song's
always been the most popular thing I've ever done.
Well, we all have to be known for something, right?
If anyone wants to hear the full-length version of the Egotastic Funtime theme song, you can go to egotasticfuntime.com and download a free copy.
Fab. All right. Well, that's it for the plugs. Guys, do we have anybody for next week? Cricket. Sure. Right.
Sorry. I'm still in discussion. It's got a bunch of complicated stuff, so I don't have a time yet.
Anything? Are you still awake?
Well, we have no ending for our show.
He may have actually fallen asleep.
Too bad it doesn't snore. That would be perfect. Perfect theme song.
The only problem there is that we can't stop recording because he's running the switchboard.
Yeah,
should probably just hurl random obscenities at him or something. I'm sure that we'll get flagged for something, but oddly enough, the flagging doesn't seem to happen that much on live broadcasts.
Probably why you see those, illegal streams all the time.
Probably. And if you really feel like an asshole, go ahead and watch episodes of the Orville in YouTube Vision.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Yeah. Oh God, it's like they have that mangled audio, so it tricks the robots, and then it's in like the corner of the screen, and they've used their best MS Paint skills to, create a border. They uploaded it to there. It's like nails on blackboard trying to watch the episode, but I got all the way through them. Just I watched them legit. I gave them their ratings, and then I watched them again on YouTube while I was doing something, and I'm like, damn, this other thing that I'm doing is kind of impossible while I'm trying to watch this nightmare show. What have you done? Petty fan!
All right.
Oh, there you go. I hear something.
Petty fan. Yoo-hoo! Show's over.
Yeah. We need
What
you
if I
to
just kick him off the call?
I think that wouldn't help.
Well, like the show would still be going. Like,
But
the
it would be dead silence.
I mean,
Well, hopefully it all gets worked out.
Anyway,
you're free to
that's the
go.
end of the show.
We're not going to hold you hostage.
All right, I'm gonna
You're free to go,
hang up
JP.
on you.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye.
Night.
Oh, Rich.
Petty fan.
Wow.
The
Wow.
white zone is for loading and unloading of Richard Schaefer's only.
Oh, Jesus. Like Petty? Like
Hey,
Man.
Dick!
Oh,
Still recording, man. Calm the fuck down.
His name is Richard.
Yeah, I get
You
that.
already said that out loud.
Does anybody have his phone number to call him?
I think I got that. Let me...
Adam does, but he said he turns it off during the show.
oh.
Well, you could try. Maybe he only turns off the thing on his computer.
Yeah, that's why he probably meant. Hopefully.
let's see. R. That's under Richard.
Yeah, I wasn't complaining about using his real name. We've used his real name before on the program. That's not the point.
Yeah, okay.
It was more the hey Dick line was not very nice.
Oh,
Even
no.
by-
So I apologize.
Even by our
I intended it only as like a joking nickname, not as calling him a dick.
well,
I
You failed.
realize it's the dual entendre was intentional, but I didn't mean to call him a dick as an insult specifically. I was kind of hoping it would snap him and snap a "don't call me that" reflex. As someone who used to be vehemently opposed to being called Andy.
That didn't work. His phone. I hope he didn't have a heart attack and die on us. That would be.
yeah, that's not funny either. Thanks.
Alright. I don't know. Hell, he could be away from his keyboard for all I know. Like, he didn't. You know. But he's probably asleep. Because he didn't leave no message.
All right, let's pick up.